are back after one of our very best performances in a UFC predictions video. Last week we went 4-1 in terms of bets, resulting in 4 units of profit, and in terms of picks, we went 9-2. Let's carry over some of this momentum in a somewhat lackluster card of UFC 312. First up, we go to the flyweight division where we have Hyun Park set to face off against Nyamjargal Tumendemberel. Give me some credit with the pronunciation of the dude's name, if I got it right. The dude has more syllables in his name than an Eminem verse. As far as fighting style, it's about as chaotic as his name, and he's very susceptible to getting taken down. He does have a reach advantage and packs some heavy power if the fight stays on the feet, but that seems to be a challenge for him. In his last fight, he got taken down by Carlos Hernandez 4 times. That's the most I've ever seen Carlos Hernandez get in a fight. His keys to victory are going to be keeping the fight on the feet and trying to land that power. As for his opponent, Hyun Park, who is a lot more technical, a better striker, and a better grappler in my opinion, I think he's way more well-rounded, and I do see him getting the victory in this one. His challenge may be overcoming the reach disadvantage. I believe it's about 5 inches, and landing some nice, clean, short shots. But I do see him being able to do so, overcoming that hurdle, and getting the nod on the judges' scorecards. But I don't want to bet on this because these guys are not proven at the UFC level. Next up, we have Anshul Jubli set to face off against Quillan Salkilld. I'm sorry if I butchered the name, but we move on. Anshul, as most of you may know, is carrying the weight of the country of India on his back as he represents them with great pride. But I'm seriously worried about his takedown defense against a guy like Quillan. Quillan scored 9 takedowns out of 22 attempts and maintained about 5 minutes or almost 5 minutes of control time in his Contender Series fight. That is going to be too much for Anshul to handle. In my opinion, I see Quillan winning this fight, but don't bet on it because the odds are just not good enough. Next up, we got Jonathan Micallef set to face off against Jousset. Jonathan's game plan is quite simple. Get the fight down by any means necessary and try to lock out a submission. That in itself is going to be a challenge because he's facing a guy in Jousset who has never been taken down in his UFC career. He is primarily a striker fighting out of city kickboxing, so expect him to be putting the hands on Jonathan. Once Jousset's takedown defense holds up, it should be a very easy win for him. I'm placing a bet on Jousset to win together with over 1.5 rounds, doubling my money. I have seen Jonathan get dropped in his lone loss and then started shooting for legs to try to survive. Jousset, when he finishes fights, he does it early, but I expect him to be a lot more cautious and not follow Jonathan to the ground because that is where Jonathan wants to fight. So the pick is Jousset to win, and the bet is gonna be Jousset to win and over 1.5 rounds. Next up, we got Steele set to face off against Rongzhu. And if you think it's gonna be an upset, you're absolutely out of your mind. Cody has got some serious finishing ability, and I'm gonna be placing a bet on him to win by KO or sub to double my money. Rongzhu is not the best of the weight class, and it's his second stint in the UFC. 2 stints in the UFC and only getting 1 win out of 4 fights, where the win happened when you missed weight. And you also lost to a guy like Rodrigo Vargas. His only win? So much wrong with Rongzhu, but there's no way he wins against a guy like Cody. Cody is well-rounded. Cody packs so much power in those hands, and I expect him to finish him early. Bet and pick is Cody Steele to win inside the distance. Next up, we got Colby Thicknesse set to face off against Aleksandre Topuria. Colby is a training partner of Volkanovski. He is also very well rounded. He can give Topuria his hardest fight, but Topuria is a really good fighter. 6 fights in his career, 5-1 record. He's really crushed the opponents he's won against. He has beaten every single one of them in the first round, but out of those 5 wins, 4 were against fighters with losing records. And his 1 loss was against a guy who is undefeated, but he has a winning record. Topuria's game plan, he's not like his brother. He more likes to fight on the ground. He will take you down and pound your head in. People have been tapping out the strikes against this kind of pressure. So I expect Topuria to get the win here, but it may not be as easy as his former challengers. The fight may go on to the later stages, and the worry here is his cardio, because Colby may be tough. He may be durable enough to last the early onslaught, and Topuria in his 1 loss, he got finished in the 3rd round. So be very cautious with this bet. To me, I think Topuria wins, but there is a chance that Colby can win if it gets dragged on to the later stages, so don't bet it. Next up, we got Wang set to face off against Bruna, Brasil, and Wang is coming off a submission loss, but she was winning the striking, got overconfident, and ended up getting submitted. I think Wang bounces back here. Bruna Brasil, she has looked good at the UFC level. She has beaten girls like Molly McCann, who's not really that good. But I think it's a bit too much for her against a striker the level of Wang. The question is whether Wang wins by decision or KO. I'm leaning more towards decision. On to the next one. On to the lightweights, we have Nolan set to face off against Viacheslav Borshchev. Getting straight to the chase, I'm placing a bet on Viacheslav Borshchev to get the W here. His weakness is being taken down and beaten on the ground. But in terms of striking, he is really good. And I think he's even better than Nolan in the striking. Nolan was supposed to dominate his last opponent and finish him early, but it ended up going to decision. He hasn't really looked good at the UFC level, in my opinion. He got finished in his sole loss. Yes, Borshchev did look bad against Chase Hooper, but again, that's when you take him down. When you stand up with him, he will dominate you, and I see him doing that to Nolan. Viacheslav Borshchev is a pick. I'm going to be betting on him to win. On to the featherweights, we have Jack Jenkins set to face off against Gabriel Santos. Jack Jenkins is very well rounded, and the odds makers are making a mistake here, in my opinion. Look at the guys he's beaten. He's beaten a guy like Jamal Emmers. He was beating Chepe Mariscal before he got that shoulder injury. Herbert Burns, not really all that good. Jack Jenkins is a decent fighter here. He's my underdog pick of the week. He has really nice leg kicks that are a problem for absolutely anybody that he faces. His striking is alright, but he's well-rounded enough to get the victory against a guy like Gabriel Santos. Underdog pick of the week, Jack Jenkins. Next up, we have Jake Matthews set to face off against Francisco Prado, and this is a low-confidence pick for Jake Matthews here because he hasn't really looked that good as of late. But Prado is really just a durable guy that can probably survive any kind of punches that Jake Matthews can throw. I don't see Jake getting the finish here. I see this going by decision, but no bet on this fight. Next up, we got Jimmy Crute set to face off against Rodolfo Bellato. Now, I see a lot of value in the dog here. Jimmy Crute, yes, he is on a serious skid. But Rodolfo Bellato, he didn't look good in his win against Topuria. He just showed durability. Got punched in the face long enough for him to come back and get a finish. Jimmy Crute, he's not just going to punch you in the face. He can probably submit you too. So I think the underdog has a really good chance of winning this one. Next up, we got Taliesin Teixeira set to face off against Justin Tafa. Not Junior Tafa, Justin Tafa. Justin Tafa is the better fighter of the two brothers, and he can land that power to put anyone out. Teixeira is undefeated and he also wants to land that power. I see this fight not going past the first round. One of these guys is going to land that KO blow, and I think the undefeated guy keeps his record. He's going to want to use leg kicks and try to immobilize a guy like Tafa, because if Tafa just gets in that pocket and slings that right hand, you're going to get put to sleep. But I think he's going to be able to do enough to get a win. Well, not do enough, but get a KO to get the win. Next up, we got Weili Zhang set to face off against Tatiana Suarez for the 115-pound title. Weili Zhang has got her work cut out for her. She is not really good in terms of takedown defense, but in terms of striking, phenomenal. Tatiana Suarez, excellent in terms of taking fights down to the ground, but not really that good in terms of finishing ability. She really wants to control the fight there, try to land some ground and pound and get a victory. She's going to work to submissions, but I think Zhang Weili is way too good in terms of submission defense. This is a fight that can go either way. If the fight stays standing, Zhang Weili gets the win with ease. If the fight gets taken to the ground multiple times, Tatiana Suarez should get the win. The bet for this one is going to be Zhang Weili to land more significant strikes, because as long as she keeps the fight standing, she's going to be outlanding Tatiana for sure. And when the fight's taken down to the ground, I see Tatiana not really landing significant strikes. She'll be landing strikes, but I don't see her posturing up that much and landing heavy blows for them to count as significant. I do see Tatiana getting the win though, but not going to be betting on the victor. The only bet I'm going to be placing is Zhang Weili to land more significant strikes, especially if the fight stays standing. That's just easy money. Now on to the main event. Dricus du Plessis set to face off against Sean Strickland in a rematch. This time, Dricus is the champion. Last time he was a challenger. So, let's get into it. I see Sean Strickland landing more significant strikes for sure. He is a higher volume striker. However, I see Dricus du Plessis landing the harder shots. So volume versus power. Regardless, I see the fight going the distance. And I see the judges giving the nod to Dricus du Plessis. He's too much for Sean in terms of power. And the staph infection looking thing on his arm, that worries me. I don't see Sean Strickland getting tired, but being overwhelmed for sure. When you land heavy shots, it looks really good to the judges, and the judges could give him favorable scorecards. Bet Sean Strickland to land more significant strikes combined with over 2.5 rounds. But don't bet the winner of this fight, because it's kind of hard to tell when it goes to the judges' scorecards, which we'll do for this fight. And this has been my predictions for UFC 312. Be sure to leave a like, comment down below, let me know what you think about the picks and the plays. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, support the channel on the Patreon, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, game time.